How did it come to this? I only wanted one night of freedom, but instead, I came home to divorce papers served at my own front door. Can a single ultimatum really destroy everything, or was he always planning to turn my own game against me? The kitchen clock ticked past 9:30 as I stared at Grant across our granite countertop. He was methodically washing dishes, his broad shoulders tense under his navy polo shirt. Our 6-year-old daughter Sadie had finally fallen asleep after 3 bedtime stories, and now it was just us, the silence thick enough to cut with a knife. "I'm going to stay at Mom's tomorrow night," I announced, setting my wineglass down with more force than necessary. "You know, have some girl time, watch movies, talk about life." Grant's hand stilled on the plate he was scrubbing. His dark eyes met mine in the reflection of the window above the sink. "Tomorrow's Saturday. I thought we could take Sadie to the zoo." "You can take her yourself." "I need this, Grant. I need time to breathe, to remember who I am outside of being a wife and mother." The words came out sharper than I intended, but honestly, they needed to be said. When was the last time I did something just for me? He turned around slowly, water dripping from his hands. At 35, Grant still looked like the college football player I'd married 8 years ago. Tall, solid, dependable. But lately, that dependability felt more like a cage than comfort. "What's really going on, Mireille?" His voice was quiet, controlled. "You've been different lately. Distant." I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Different how? Because I want some independence? Because I don't want to spend every weekend doing family activities and pretending everything is perfect? That's not what I meant, and you know it. Grant dried his hands on the dish towel, his movements deliberate. "You've been staying late at work, going out with co-workers, coming home with stories about people I've never heard of before. So now I'm not allowed to have friends? I work in HR, Grant. I meet people. I have conversations that don't revolve around cartoon characters and grocery lists." I stood up from the bar stool, pacing to the sliding glass door that led to our backyard. "God, do you hear yourself? You sound exactly like my father used to sound with my mother." That hit home. I saw his jaw clench. Grant's own father had been controlling, critical. It was a sore spot, and I knew it. "I'm not trying to control you," he said carefully. "I'm trying to understand why my wife suddenly needs to spend the night away from her family to remember who she is." My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Joel. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. It's been too long." My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral as I flipped the phone face down. "Maybe because I'm 32 years old and I feel like I'm disappearing," I said, turning back to face him. "When was the last time we talked about my dreams, my goals? When was the last time you asked what I wanted out of life?" Grant's expression softened slightly. "What do you want, Mireille? Tell me." But I couldn't tell him the truth. I couldn't tell him about Joel Kettering, the bartender at the Lantern who made me laugh and told me I was beautiful and made me feel alive again. I couldn't tell him about the text messages, the lingering touches when he served my drinks, the way my heart raced when he smiled at me. "I want to feel like myself again," I said instead. "I want one night where I don't have to be mommy or honey or anyone's anything, just Mireille." Grant studied my face for a long moment. "And you can't be yourself here? With us?" "Not lately, no." The lie came easily. "Everything here is about responsibility and schedules and what everyone else needs. Mom understands that. She went through the same thing when she was my age." Another buzz from my phone. Grant's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. "Fine," he said finally. "Go to your mother's. But I want you to think about what you're really running from, because it's not this house or this family." I felt a surge of irritation. Even when he was giving me what I wanted, he had to make it sound like I was the problem. "I'm not running from anything. I'm running toward something, toward feeling human again." "And what about Sadie? She's been asking why Mommy's always tired, why we don't have family movie nights anymore." Guilt twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it down. "One night, Grant. I'm asking for one night. Don't make it into something it's not. He nodded slowly, but there was something in his eyes I couldn't read. Okay, go to your mother's. Have your girl time. I should have felt victorious, but something about his tone made me uneasy. Thank you, I said stiffly. I'll tell Sadie in the morning. He turned back to the sink, dismissing me. I grabbed my phone and headed upstairs, my heart pounding with anticipation and something else, something that felt dangerously like guilt. In our bedroom, I quickly typed back to Joel. All set for tomorrow, can't wait. His response came immediately. Me neither, beautiful. It'll be perfect. I smiled, feeling that familiar flutter in my chest. This was what I deserved, to feel wanted, desired, appreciated. Grant hadn't called me beautiful in months. He barely seemed to notice me at all anymore. My phone rang. Mom. Hi, honey. Lila's voice was warm and conspiratorial. So tomorrow night is all set. I told Mrs. Chen next door that you'd be staying over, just in case Grant calls to check. He won't call, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. But thanks for covering for me. You deserve this, Mireille. You've been giving and giving for years. It's time you took something for yourself. That's what I keep telling myself. Because it's true. Grant doesn't appreciate what he has. Maybe a night apart will remind him. I settled onto our bed, looking around the room Grant and I had decorated together when we first bought the house. The navy and cream color scheme had felt so sophisticated then, so adult. Now it just felt bland. Mom, do you think I'm being selfish? Honey, you're being human. You think your father never made me feel guilty for wanting my own life? Men don't understand that we can love our families and still need more. Grant said I've been different lately. Of course you have. You're growing, changing. That's what people do. If he can't handle that, it's his problem, not yours. I heard footsteps in the hallway and lowered my voice. I should go. See you tomorrow. Can't wait, sweetheart. We'll have such a good time. After hanging up, I went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. When I came back, Grant was already under the covers, reading on his tablet. He didn't look up when I climbed in beside him. Grant? Yeah? Are you mad at me? He set down the tablet and turned to face me. In the lamplight, his features looked sharper, more serious. I'm not mad, Mireille. I'm concerned. About what? About us. About where we're headed. My chest tightened. One night at my mother's doesn't mean we're headed anywhere. It's not about one night. It's about the pattern, the distance, the way you look at me like I'm the enemy. I don't. You do. His voice was gentle but firm, and I don't know how to fix it if you won't tell me what's wrong. I stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of his words. Part of me wanted to confess everything, about Joel, about how empty I felt, about how I wasn't sure I wanted to be married anymore. But the other part, the stronger part, whispered that I deserved this chance at happiness. Maybe some things can't be fixed, I said quietly. Grant was silent for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, maybe you're right. Something in his tone made me look at him, but his back was already turned, the conversation over. I lay awake for hours, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, my phone clutched in my hand. Joel had sent another text. Sweet dreams, gorgeous. Tomorrow can't come soon enough. Neither could I. Saturday evening couldn't arrive fast enough. I'd spent the day in a state of nervous excitement, packing an overnight bag while Grant took Sadie to the zoo as planned. When they returned, Sadie was full of stories about the elephants and the monkey house, her face bright with joy. Mommy, Daddy said you're having a sleepover with Grandma Lila, she announced, climbing onto my lap as I sat on the couch. Can I come too? My heart clenched. Not this time, baby. This is just for grown-ups. But tomorrow when I come home, we'll do something special together, okay? Promise? Promise. I kissed her forehead, breathing in her sweet little girl smell. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I really doing this? Was one night of feeling alive worth the risk? Then Grant walked through the living room without looking at me, and I remembered why I needed this. I deserved to feel wanted, to feel beautiful, to feel like more than just a wife and mother going through the motions. At 6 o'clock, I kissed Sadie goodbye and hugged Grant stiffly. "I'll be back tomorrow afternoon," I said. "Drive carefully," he replied, but his tone was distant, distracted. The drive to the Lantern took 20 minutes, and I spent every one of them checking my appearance in the rearview mirror. I'd chosen a black dress that hugged my curves, paired with heels that made my legs look endless. It had been months since I'd dressed up for anyone, and the transformation was intoxicating. The Lantern was busy for a Saturday night, filled with couples on dates and groups of friends celebrating. I spotted Joel immediately behind the bar, his sandy hair catching the warm light, his easy smile making my pulse quicken. When he saw me, his face lit up in a way that made me feel like the only woman in the room. "There's my beautiful girl," he said, leaning across the bar to kiss my cheek. The contact sent electricity through my entire body. "You look incredible." "Thank you," I breathed, settling onto the bar stool directly in front of him. "You don't look too bad yourself." Joel was everything Grant wasn't: spontaneous, flirtatious, dangerous. At 30, he still had that boyish charm that made women want to take care of him, combined with just enough edge to keep things interesting. He made me feel young again, reckless in the best possible way. "The usual?" he asked, already reaching for the wine. "Actually, make it something stronger. I'm celebrating." "Oh yeah? What are we celebrating?" "Freedom," I said, accepting the martini he slid across the bar. "One night of complete and total freedom." His smile faltered slightly. "Everything okay at home?" I took a long sip of my drink, feeling the gin burn pleasantly down my throat. "Everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. Grant's being very understanding about me needing some space." "That's good, I guess." Joel served another customer, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. When he came back, he leaned closer. "Mireille, you know I care about you, but I don't want to cause problems in your marriage." "You're not causing problems," I assured him, reaching across the bar to touch his hand. "You're solving them. You're reminding me who I used to be before I became someone's wife and someone's mother." The doubt in his eyes cleared, replaced by desire. "God, you're amazing. You know that?" No one had called me amazing in years. I felt beautiful, powerful, alive. My phone buzzed. A text from Grant. "Hope you're having fun with your mum. Sadie wants to say goodnight." Guilt stabbed through me, but I pushed it away. I quickly typed back, "At Mom's now. Tell Sadie I love her. Talk tomorrow." Then I turned my phone face down and focused on Joel. "Sorry about that. Where were we?" "I was telling you how amazing you are," he said, his voice lower now, more intimate despite the crowd around us. "Keep going. I like the sound of that." We talked for hours, or rather, Joel talked and I listened, basking in his attention. He told me about his dreams of opening his own restaurant, about the poetry he wrote in his spare time, about how different I was from other women he'd known. Every word felt like validation, like proof that I was more than just a suburban housewife slowly disappearing into routine. Around 11, the crowd began to thin out. Joel's shift was almost over, and the tension between us had built to an almost unbearable level. "Come home with me," he said quietly, his eyes intense. "I want to show you my apartment, my poems. I want to talk to you all night." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the moment of no return. I thought about Grant, probably asleep by now, probably not even missing me. I thought about Sadie, safe in her bed, dreaming about zoo animals. I thought about my mother, who would cover for me no matter what. "Yes," I whispered. Joel's apartment was a studio above a coffee shop, small but cozy with exposed brick walls and bookshelves everywhere. It was the kind of place I'd dreamed of living when I was 22, before I'd chosen stability over adventure. "This is perfect," I said. running my fingers along the spines of his books. It's so… you. You think so? He moved behind me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. I've been wanting to bring you here for weeks. I turned in his arms, and suddenly we were kissing. Soft at first, then with increasing urgency. It felt like coming alive after years of sleepwalking. Are you sure about this? He murmured against my lips. I've never been more sure of anything. What followed was everything my marriage had stopped being. Passionate, desperate, consuming. Joel made me feel beautiful, desired, worthy of being fought for. In his arms, I wasn't Grant's distant wife or Sadie's tired mother. I was just Mireille, a woman worth wanting. Afterward, we lay tangled in his sheets, talking in whispers, as the city settled into sleep around us. I should probably text my mom, I said reluctantly, reaching for my phone. Let her know I made it safely. I quickly typed, made it to your place safely. Thanks again for letting me stay over. Love you. Mum's response came immediately. Of course, honey. Sleep well. You deserve this. I felt a pang of something. Not quite guilt, but close. My mother thought I was having an innocent girl's night, not lying naked in another man's bed. But she'd also told me I deserved happiness, deserved to feel alive again. This was what that looked like. Everything okay? Joel asked, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. Perfect, I said, turning back to him. Everything's perfect. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake the image of Sadie asking if she could come to the sleepover too, or the memory of Grant's concerned eyes when he'd asked what was really going on. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Grant. Sadie had a nightmare. She's okay now, but she was asking for you. Sleep well. The guilt hit harder this time, but I forced it down. One night, I deserved one night of happiness, of feeling wanted and alive. Grant would never have to know, and what he didn't know couldn't hurt him. I turned off my phone and pulled Joel closer, losing myself in his warmth and the intoxicating feeling of being desired. Tomorrow, I'd go back to being a wife and mother. Tonight, I was just a woman in love with the possibility of being someone else. But even as I drifted off to sleep in Joel's arms, I couldn't quite silence the voice in my head, whispering that some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Sunday morning arrived grey and drizzling, matching my suddenly uncertain mood. I woke up in Joel's arms feeling disoriented, the reality of what I'd done settling over me like a heavy blanket. In the harsh light of day, his studio apartment looked smaller, seedier somehow. The magic of the night before felt distant and complicated. Morning, beautiful, Joel mumbled, pulling me closer. How'd you sleep? Good, I lied, extracting myself from his embrace. But I should probably head home soon. Grant's expecting me this afternoon. Joel's expression shifted, becoming guarded. Right, back to reality. I dressed quickly, avoiding his eyes. The black dress that had made me feel so powerful last night now felt like a costume, evidence of a role I wasn't sure I was ready to play. Mireille, Joel caught my hand as I reached for my purse. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? The question I'd been dreading. In the fantasy, this part was easy. We'd figure it out, find a way to be together. In reality, I had a husband and a 6-year-old daughter waiting for me at home. I don't know, I said honestly. This is all very complicated. His face fell. The way you talked last night, it sounded like you were ready to make some changes. I am. I just need time to figure out what that looks like. Joel nodded, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. Okay, well, you know where to find me. The drive home felt endless. I'd stopped by my mother's apartment first, needing to coordinate our stories and borrow some of her clothes to change into, evidence of our supposed sleepover. You're glowing, Mom said, looking me up and down approvingly. I take it you had a good time? It was exactly what I needed, I said, which was true enough. Good. You deserve happiness, Mireille. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for taking it. But guilt was exactly what I felt as I pulled into my own driveway an hour later. Grant's car was there, along with his mother's silver Honda. Great. Marion Gresham was the last person I wanted to face right now. I took a deep breath, checked my appearance one more time, and walked into my own house like I was entering enemy territory. "Mummy!" Sadie launched herself at me before I'd even closed the door, her small arms wrapping around my waist. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too, baby," I said, hugging her tight and breathing in her familiar scent. For a moment, the guilt was overwhelming. "Did you have fun with Grandma Lila?" she asked, looking up at me with Grant's dark eyes. "We had a wonderful time. We watched movies and talked all night." The lies came so easily it scared me. Grant appeared in the doorway to the kitchen, his expression unreadable. "How was your girls' night?" "Refreshing," I said, meeting his eyes steadily. "Exactly what I needed." Marion emerged behind him, her silver hair perfectly styled, despite it being Sunday afternoon. At 64, Grant's mother was still formidable, a retired school principal who'd never learned to soften her edges. "Mireille," she said coolly, "Grant mentioned you needed some time away." There was something in her tone that made my skin prickle. "Just a night with my mother. Nothing dramatic." "Of course." Marion's smile didn't reach her eyes. It's so important for daughters to maintain close relationships with their mothers. I couldn't tell if she was being sincere or sarcastic. With Marion, it was often hard to tell. "Well," I said, setting my overnight bag down, "I should get settled back in. Thank you for watching Sadie, Marion." "Actually," Grant said, his voice carefully neutral, "Mom was just leaving. Weren't you, Mom?" Marion's eyes flicked between us, clearly sensing the tension. "Yes, I suppose I should get going. Eli's expecting me for dinner." After she left, the house felt oppressively quiet. Sadie had settled in front of the TV with her coloring books, leaving Grant and me alone in the kitchen. "So," he said, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed, "how's your mother?" "She's fine. We had a nice time catching up." "That's good. She called here around 10 last night, by the way." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "Your mother. She called looking for you. Said she'd been trying your cell, but it was going straight to voicemail." Grant's voice was still neutral, but his eyes were sharp, watchful. "I told her you were probably already asleep." My mind raced. Why would Mom have called? We'd coordinated everything. Unless... "Oh," I said, forcing a laugh. "She probably wanted to ask if I could pick up milk on my way over. You know how she is." "Mm-hmm." Grant pushed off from the counter. "She seemed surprised that you weren't home yet, though. Said she thought you were coming over around 8. The trap was closing around me, but I kept my expression calm. We'd talked about 8, but I got caught up at work. I texted her when I was on my way. "Right. Well, I'm sure you two figured it out." He was giving me an out, a chance to maintain the lie, but something in his tone told me he already knew I was lying. The question was, how much did he know? "Grant," I said, moving closer to him, "is everything okay? You seem tense." "Do I?" He studied my face carefully. "I guess I'm just tired. Sadie had a rough night, bad dreams." The guilt hit me again, sharper this time. "You texted me about that. I'm sorry I wasn't here." "Yeah, well, you were having your girls' night. Can't be in 2 places at once." There was definitely an edge to his voice now. I decided to go on the offensive. "You're being weird about this," I said, crossing my arms. "I spent one night at my mother's house, Grant. It's not a federal crime." "You're right," he said quietly. "It's not." But something in his tone made me think he wasn't talking about spending the night at my mother's house. He was talking about something else entirely. My phone buzzed, a text from Joel. "Missing you already. When can we do that again?" I quickly flipped the phone face down, but not before Grant's eyes flicked to it. "Work?" he asked. "Probably. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. Your work doesn't usually text you on Sundays. It's a new client, very demanding." The lies were piling up, each one making the next one necessary. Grant nodded slowly. I see. Well, I'm going to take Sadie to the park, give you some time to settle back in. I'll come with you. That's okay. You just got back from your refreshing girls' night. You probably need to rest. There was no mistaking the sarcasm now. He knew. Maybe not everything, but he knew something was wrong. After they left, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at my phone. Joel had sent 2 more texts, each one more needy than the last. The excitement I'd felt last night was gone, replaced by a growing sense of dread. I called my mother. Why did you call the house last night? I demanded as soon as she answered. What? I didn't call... Oh, wait. I did call around 10, but I hung up when Grant answered. I was going to ask if you wanted me to record that movie we talked about, but then I remembered you were already there with me. She laughed. Good thing I hung up, right? Grant said you seemed surprised I wasn't home yet. Well, I was confused for a second, but I played it off. Don't worry, honey. Your secret's safe. But as I hung up the phone, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't safe at all. Grant was suspicious, and Grant was many things, but he wasn't stupid. I looked around my kitchen, our kitchen, with its granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, the family photos on the refrigerator, Sadie's artwork covering every available surface. This was my life, the life I'd built with Grant over 8 years of marriage. So why did it suddenly feel like a prison? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Joel. This time, I turned it off completely. The following Saturday, Marion invited us for family dinner, a monthly tradition that had become increasingly strained over the past year. As we drove to her house in Grant's truck, Sadie chattering excitedly in the back seat about seeing Uncle Eli, I felt like I was heading to my own execution. Grant had been distant all week, polite but cold. He'd stopped asking about my day, stopped trying to initiate conversation. The silence between us had grown thick and uncomfortable, broken only by necessary exchanges about Sadie's schedule or household logistics. Remember, I said as we pulled into Marion's driveway, we're a united front. Whatever's going on between us stays between us. Grant looked at me for a long moment. Of course, we wouldn't want to air our dirty laundry in public. Something in his tone made my stomach clench, but before I could respond, Sadie was unbuckling her seatbelt and racing toward the front door. Marion's house was a testament to her 30 years as an educator. Every surface covered with books, the walls lined with photos of students and family. The smell of pot roast filled the air, making me nostalgic for the early days of my marriage when these dinners had felt like a warm embrace rather than an interrogation. There's my favorite granddaughter, Eli boomed, scooping Sadie up in a bear hug. At 38, Grant's older brother was a successful contractor with an easy laugh and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He'd never married, claiming he was too smart to tie himself down, but he doted on Sadie like she was his own. I'm your only granddaughter, Uncle Eli, Sadie giggled. Details, he said, winking at me. How are you, Mireille? You look tired. Thanks a lot, I said, forcing a smile. Nothing like family to boost your self-esteem. I just meant you look like you could use a vacation, maybe sometime at a spa. Actually, I said, settling onto Marion's floral sofa, I did take some time for myself last weekend. Had a girls' night with my mother. That's nice, Marion said from the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. It's so important for women to maintain their friendships as they get older. There was that tone again, the one that made me feel like I was being tested. Yes, I said carefully, it was very refreshing. Grant sat down beside me, close enough to maintain appearances, but far enough that we weren't actually touching. Mireille's been feeling like she needs more independence lately. Oh? Eli raised an eyebrow. Independence from what? From being defined solely by my roles as wife and mother, I said, warming to the topic. I'm 32 years old. I have my own dreams, my own needs. Sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing into everyone else's expectations. Marion emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of appetizers, her expression thoughtful. That's interesting. I raised 2 boys while working full-time, and I never felt like I was disappearing. I felt like I was building something. Times were different then, I said, accepting a glass of wine from Eli. Women didn't have as many options. Now we know we can have it all. Career, family, personal fulfillment. Can we? Marion settled into her armchair, her keen eyes fixed on me. Or do we just think we can, and end up making everyone miserable in the process? The criticism stung, but I kept my voice level. I don't think wanting to feel alive and appreciated makes anyone miserable. Depends on how you go about getting those feelings, Marion replied coolly. Grant shifted beside me, and I could feel the tension radiating off him. Eli was watching the exchange with interest, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. Nothing specific, Marion said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Just that sometimes when we're feeling unfulfilled, we look for solutions in the wrong places. Mom, Grant said quietly, maybe we should talk about something else. Why? I stood up, the wine making me braver than I should have been. Because I'm not allowed to have feelings about my own life, because admitting that I'm not perfectly happy with the status quo makes everyone uncomfortable. No one said you couldn't have feelings, Eli said carefully. But maybe Grant has feelings too. Maybe Sadie does. I looked at my daughter, who had gone quiet on the floor where she was coloring, her small body tense with the awareness that the adults were arguing. Of course they have feelings, I said, lowering my voice. But what about mine? When do I get to matter? You've always mattered, Grant said, his voice strained. That's not the issue here. Then what is the issue? I demanded, turning to face him. Because clearly there is one, and everyone seems to know what it is except me. Grant looked at his mother, then at his brother, then back at me. The issue is that you're lying to me. To all of us. The room went dead silent except for the sound of Sadie's crayon scratching against paper. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, but my voice came out shaky. Don't you? Grant pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Because I called your mother on Tuesday, just to thank her for giving you the girls' night you needed so badly. My heart stopped beating. She was very confused, Grant continued, his voice deadly calm. She said you'd never come over on Saturday night. She said the last time she saw you was the previous weekend. The wineglass slipped from my hand, shattering on Marion's hardwood floor. Sadie looked up, startled, and I saw fear in her eyes. Grant, I whispered, let's not do this here. Where then? He asked, standing up. Because you won't do it at home. You just keep lying, keep making up stories, keep treating me like I'm stupid. I don't. Where were you Saturday night, Mireille? His voice was louder now, and Sadie had stopped coloring completely. If you weren't at your mother's, where were you? I looked around the room, at Marion's satisfied expression, at Eli's concerned frown, at Sadie's frightened face, and felt trapped, cornered, exposed. I was working through some things, I said weakly. By lying to your husband and abandoning your daughter. Marion's voice was sharp with disapproval. I didn't abandon anyone. The words came out louder than I intended. I took one night for myself, one night to remember who I am outside of this suffocating. I stopped myself, but it was too late. The damage was done. Grant's face had gone pale. Suffocating what, Mireille? Our marriage? Our family? Sadie started to cry, quiet tears rolling down her cheeks, as she stared at her parents falling apart in front of her. Look what you've done, I said to Grant, gesturing at our daughter. Look how you've upset her. What I've done, Grant's voice was incredulous. I'm not the one who lied about where I was spending the night. I'm not the one who's been sneaking around, coming home with stories about people who don't exist. They do exist, I protested, then realized my mistake. Who, Mireille? Grant stepped closer, his eyes blazing. Who exists? Because it's sure as hell not your co-workers. I called your office. You haven't worked late once in the past month. The walls were closing in. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, judging me, condemning me. Even Sadie was looking at me like she didn't recognize her own mother. I need some air, I said, grabbing my purse and heading for the door. Running away again, Marion called after me. How mature. I spun around, fury overriding my fear. You know what? Yes, I'm running. I'm running from all of you, and your judgment, and your expectations, and your perfect little family dinners where everyone pretends everything is fine. We're not pretending, Eli said quietly. We're trying to understand what's happening to you. What's happening to me is that I'm finally waking up, I shouted. I'm finally realizing that I deserve more than this, that I deserve to be happy, to be appreciated, to be wanted. By who? Grant's voice was deadly quiet. Who wants you, Mireille? Who appreciates you so much that you have to lie to your family to see them? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. There was no way out of this that didn't make everything worse. I'm leaving, I said instead. Good, Marion said coldly. Maybe that's what's best for everyone. I looked at Grant, hoping to see some sign that he disagreed, that he wanted me to stay and fight for us. But his face was stone, closed off and distant. Only Sadie reached for me as I headed for the door. Mummy, don't go. Please don't go. The sound of her voice broke something inside me, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't face the truth, couldn't admit what I'd done, couldn't figure out how to fix the mess I'd created. So I ran,